Hey everybody, welcome back in the shed. I'm Troy Shaw, and with me is Dave Griffiths as always. What's up, Dave?
Well, it's July 4th weekend. Our birthday is tomorrow, and I'm going to take some time off and have a blast. Drink beer, barbecue, and good times.
That's what life's all about right there. In rock and roll. And our guest today has been a pivotal part of the local music scene for over 30 years. He's also the owner of Lone Star Music, and we're really honored to have Calvin Ross in the shed today. How's it going, Calvin?
Going great, guys. Appreciate it.
By the way, we're on remote here. We're not in the shed.
It's too hot.
It's too hot in the shed, so we're here at Calvin's joint on Lake Air.
Lone Star Music. We're at Lone Star Music, so we want to thank Calvin for being here. So, Calvin, are you a Wacoan?
Actually born in a little town called Sidney, Texas, close to Comanche, Texas, / Brownwood. Comanche Indians. Yeah, I was raised on a dairy farm there for the first 24 years of my life.
So what got you into rock and roll?
Probably
playing to the cows?
The milk cow blues, man. No, you know, I just got into rock and roll really heavily as a teenager with Zeppelin and ZZ Top and all those guys, and Deep Purple, Montrose, all those guitar guys, you know, and that kind of got me into it. Really, a couple of my buddies started picking up and playing and jamming in bands, and I just took a liking to it and got my first guitar when I was 9, which I still have, by the way. It's
awesome.
A little Airline guitar.
Man, that Airline's got to be worth some money right now. You still have it?
I still have it.
Oh.
And
you know, they're Eastwood, I think, sells those guitars now. Eastwood guitars.
I didn't know
this
that.
is what Jack White plays.
Right.
And I think you can still get them. But if you have an original, I'll give you $50 tonight.
You would. And I would double my money on that. Yep, my mom got that for me when I was 9 years old. I remember walking across the street with her in Brownwood, Texas. That was the big city, because Sidney only had a general store. I mean, we were 6-man football and like 13, 14 in my class. So we went to Brownwood, the big city. She got me that guitar. I remember it cost $25.
Yeah, it was like a Montgomery Ward's guitar or something back then, wasn't it?
That's
I mean, I believe it was. It wasn't Sears, because Sears had silver tone.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Ward's guitar.
And I got lucky and got one that played good. Because, you know, back then
they were a little iffy.
Yeah, I mean, usually tree trunk necks, and the strings were high off the neck, and I just got lucky and got one that played good.
Awesome.
So I'm assuming when you were a teenager, you started your own band. Tell us about that.
Yep. Probably sophomore, junior in high school, we started our first band called Silver Cross. Originally, it was going to be Dirt Road, because we lived on dirt roads.
Yeah.
And of course,
that would be like a really popular name right now.
Dirt Road would be good right now.
It would be.
So you could say maybe we were kind of
you were
30 years ahead of our
way ahead of your time.
Yeah. Ahead of the curve.
Yeah. But we went with Silver Cross, and you know, made our own speakers and loaded them up with Radio Shack speakers, and a double 15 with a cabinet that took 2 people to haul. They were huge. But we looked cool. You know, you wanted a good look with your speakers. So, but yeah, man, we had the influence of Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Bad Company and all those guys, which I still love to this day.
I did too.
So, did you play a lot of gigs around? I mean, did you play out in the cow shed?
Yeah, we played little high school parties, man. And I do remember my first paying gig. The whole band got $125.
Wow.
And we thought
that's about what they make these days.
Yeah, you know, we've gone up maybe to 200 now. But,
yes.
You would have thought you would have thought we'd made $100,000.
What year was this, do you
That
think?
was 74.
Yeah.
So, what brought you to Waco?
Actually, I was trading with Ray Henning's Heart of Texas Music.
You used to be right here on Valley Mills.
Used to be on Franklin originally.
Oh, originally
they started.
I moved here about 20 years ago, and Ray had his place on Valley Mills at that spot that's probably Wise Guys, or became whatever it became.
I remember that. I used to manage Ray Hennings from 1980 to 83. Yeah. that's what brought me to Waco, honestly. I traded with Henning, Heart of Texas, and in the late 70s, you know, Ray gave me an open account and I bought all kinds of stuff, and all of a sudden they were in need of a manager, and the guy that was the manager then, John Milam, who just took over Danny Tharp's management position, just said, hey, I know a guy that trades with us all the time. I think he'd be a good guy. And so I spent 3 hours on the phone with Ray Henning on my dime, long distance, and Ray actually hired me over the phone because he said, I see where you've been dealing with for several years, and we've had a charge account with you, and you've always done what you say you do, man, and I feel good about this. You want to do it? And
so you mean trading for your band, or
no? Yeah, trading for my band. I would buy equipment from them and guitars and amps, and had been doing so since 75. So for 5 years, I had a history with Ray Henning's Heart of Texas Music, which is how I got recommended for the job.
Okay, cool. So when you moved to Waco, and you were working at Ray Henning's, did you start a band at that point?
At that point is when I kind of started my own band, just under the name Calvin Ross Band, because there was so many people different. I always liked a band, as in Dirt Road or Silver Cross or that kind of stuff, but when there's so many people that come in and out, it's just like a moot point almost, so I just went under my own name.
Was it, did you play mostly covers, or did you have some original stuff you're throwing in? Or?
I've always thrown in originals. That's really been my main thing, is I love writing music, and I suppose if I was left with one choice, the creative process of writing intrigues me the most, because it's just, what's the better?
It's most satisfying.
Yeah, it's extremely satisfying, and for lack of a better word, it's just almost a magical experience.
Yeah.
I mean,
so going back to your high school band, were you pretty much a cover band, or did you guys write some songs back then?
We did write a few songs back. Well, I'd written, honestly, even though I played football for 8 years, I wrote poetry. As the album title, Rock and Roll Crazy, even as football, it was a crazy time. In fact, I used to, when I was a senior, we would crank up the Ted Nugent Stranglehold or Just What the Doctor Ordered, just to get the high before you go on the field, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we did.
And did you meet Ted Nugent at that point, or when did you meet Ted Nugent?
Well, I first met Ted in Abilene, Texas. I remember the date because I still have my concert ticket, even all these years. November 5th, 1977.
Wow.
Okay, so that would have been around Cat Scratch Fever time, right?
Well, actually, that was before Cats. Well, no, wait.
Well, I think Free For All was like probably 76.
Stranglehold,
yeah.
Ted Nugent
that was 74
75.
or 75, and then you had Free For All.
Yeah, that was Cat Scratch time.
Yeah. Right.
It was Cat Scratch time.
Great
and I
album.
actually worked at believe it or not, a country music station in between the dairy farming milkings, we call them, which was morning and evening, and in between, I worked at a little country western station called KCOM.
As a DJ?
As a DJ.
Wow.
Were you milking cows too at the same time?
Yep.
That screw up your fingering technique when it came to playing
I think it gave me more
guitars?
strength in the fingers to bend them, man.
Well, they're
milk-
bending
yeah.
teats and then bending
I know what the
strings.
milk cow blues is. man.
Happy accident, yeah. All right,
But
cool.
I faked my way in backstage. I went to Ted because I love Ted's music. I mean, it was like just a pivotal moment in my life when I first heard my cousin turned me on to Ted, and she said, you got to hear this guy. I know you're going to be into this music. And she put the album on and laid the needle down and went right into Stranglehold and then Snakeskin Cowboys, and it was like from that moment, boom.
That is an awesome album. I mean, I don't care who you are, what your affiliations are, you cannot deny that first Ted Nugent album is pure rock and roll.
It defines
a lot of dirt roads have been driven down by me listening to Stranglehold. Yes.
We'll have to jam on that one later.
A lot.
Yeah. So, when did you open Lone Star Music?
Okay, well, so I moved to Waco in 1980 as the manager of Heart of Texas Music, which lasted about 3 years, which is when I was working for Heart of Texas when I did my first album. And then they wanted me to move to Austin, but Austin just wasn't quite my scene, man. I'm more of a
laid back
redneck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just was too laid back for me. And I'm a laid back guy, I suppose. But anyway, they wanted me to move to Austin, and I didn't want to move to Austin. I was the manager of Waco, so they got me to come down to Austin a few times to help out, you know, while somebody went on vacation. And finally, it just came down, honestly, to the fact
Was that Ray's store on South Lamar?
Yeah, South Lamar.
Yeah.
And I would go let somebody off, and his brother Tommy was working there, and so I would go there. Tommy would cover for me. But they go, hey, we want you in Austin. It's like, man, I want to stay in Waco. I'm the manager of Waco. I want to stay in Waco. So for a while there, few weeks, kind of this little game thing kind of went on, and finally they had to dismiss me because I would not move to Austin.
So you opened up that store on Lake Air across the street.
It was Franklin first.
Franklin.
Yeah.
Actually, Charlie Pack. He was Charlie's a great guy. And
God rest his soul. I work with his daughter,
Tracy.
Stacy
and Tracy. Yeah. I know all the Packs real well. Charlie kind of helped kickstart me, man. Actually, when I left Heart of Texas, I opened up a little consignment shop.
Tracy's got an amazing voice.
She does. She absolutely does.
Yeah.
Charlie was amazing. Singer, songwriter, bass player.
Great. I've seen his band play a few times.
Charlie Pack and the Originals. Yeah. I did sound for Charlie and also played a little bit on some of his recordings when he wanted more of a rock and roll type sound. Some of his stuff he did for Big Red and Dr. Pepper and some of those guys.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Charlie kind of helped me get started. I'm glad you guys asked that question because I had left Heart of Texas. I had a sound company that I kind of built for the 3 years I was there. So I would go out and do sound jobs for people, which led to Charlie letting me store my sound company in front of his studio in Franklin, in the front, because there was nothing going on. So he let me store my stuff, which led to people coming down, which led to people bringing in stuff. Hey, can you sell this for me? So we started literally with nothing. I mean, as a consignment shop with people. I mean, this is a people-based store. It's completely.
Yeah.
It's not daddy's money. It wasn't Big Brother's money. It wasn't a silver spoon. We literally started with Waco support, bringing us equipment. Just kind of how we're ending up now.
So, when did it turn into Lone Star Music?
Well, that was July of 1983, and by September of '83, we kind of had a little storefront going with some guitar strings and, like I said, mainly consignment stuff. So unofficially, we started September. We got Ibanez Guitars as a dealer in 1983, but officially, with the Comptroller of Texas, we became legitimate January 1st of '84. So
you got Lone Star Music happening 83, 84, but you also at that time put out an album called Rock and Roll Crazy, which just has a really cool album cover. I'm holding the album right here in my hand.
Yes, it is.
It's pretty damn cool.
It's vintage, but you're doing this karate kick on the album, and
we'll take a picture.
We'll
take a picture and put it on our Facebook page. But
should we fear you if this interview doesn't go right? Are you a jiu-jitsu master?
So tell us about this album. How did it come about? Were you signed? Did you do it for fun?
No, man. I was just writing music, and this all started honestly in the '70s. I mean, the late '70s. I started writing these songs, but I just always was, blown away and intrigued with the whole process of recording and albums, and it was like a dream to have an album. And so I started writing the songs and doing some recording with George Blackshear, who also was a Heart of Texas employee at the time, who had his own studio called Mockingbird Recorders, which Charlie Pack was part of, and started recording Rock and Roll Crazy, the song itself, the title cut, in '77, '78. But some buddies of mine that from Austin, Bill Johnson, who was also a Ray Hennings Heart of Texas employee in Austin, started their studio called Riverside Records in like 82, 83. Well, I guess it was actually 83, because I was their guinea pig project.
Really?
I was their first project. I had no clue other than I wanted to sound good, and I wanted good quality.
Well, I've heard it, and it sounds really good. I've heard it at your house on your turntable. Remember
On
when,
the turntable.
when we shot that video out there,
Yes.
you were playing it.
Well, it started out as an 8-track studio, and halfway through they converted to 16 with a digital mastering VHS morphing kind of thing that went on. But I have had some guys that have compared this quality-wise. I'm not talking about music-wise or anything like artist-wise, but they compared it to Kiss's first album, which, by the way, was done on 8-track, their first one. And it held up quality to what those guys did. And
So you had good mics, good amp, good feed, and decent mixer board.
yeah, the main thing that was missing was David Zacek engineering, man.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
producing. Seriously, I mean, these guys were friends of mine. I was a guinea pig project, but the guy that owned the studio that was one of the main mixing guys he loved drums. And I'm a guitar guy, and I'm trusting him because he knows more than I do. And so there was good guitar tones on there, don't get me wrong, but Zacek was off in Colorado, I believe, at the time.
Did you know Zacek at that time?
At the time, I knew Zacek from the late 70s with his album Airborne. I knew he was from Zacek was from Buckholz, Texas.
But he had
he's been doing, producing and mixing for a long time, and he's a pro.
Yeah, man. Everything is, for lack of a better word again, is just magical when you work with David. And Zacek's one of my heroes guitar-wise, with Jimmy Page and Ted and Billy Gibbons and all those guys, man. So I knew him, met him at again Heart of Texas Music in the late 70s, and basically had listened to his album with Airborne, and it's like I was like, man, I want to meet that guy. I want to meet that guitar player. I hear he's from Buckholz down around the Belton area. I hope I meet him someday because I love what he's doing. And so it was always my dream to meet Zacek, and fortunately that dream came true, and then we became great friends and have been and worked together and played together and done projects together. And seriously, when I say this, I mean, I was proud of this album, but I really wish Zacek would have been the one to engineer it and produce it, because it would have been a little more guitar oriented. There's a little bit of heavy rhythmic drums on here compared to what.
Have you ever thought about getting those, or are they even anywhere? Getting the tracks and remixing and maybe remastering it.
Digitizing the vinyl and remixing it.
I actually do still have all the masters.
You give them to Zacek and he could crank up the guitars for you.
This
He could throw his mojo.
That's
yeah,
right.
absolutely. Though the mojo. So this was I was their guinea pig project at Riverside Records, Austin, Texas. Little did I know until about 15 years after this, the guy, the engineer, that half owner, called me and goes, "Hey man, I'm coming to Waco. I want to stop by and BS with you a little bit." "Sure, man." So we're hanging out. He goes, "You do know who the second guy to record after you was, don't you?" I said, "No, man. I have no clue." He goes, "Stevie Ray did Texas Flood."
No shit.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of the claim to fame for this. Is I was the guinea pig. Stevie was going into the studio. We were in and out at the same time.
I got chills when you said that, man.
We never
chills.
crossed.
So John Hammond came down and did that?
We never crossed paths. I never met Stevie going in and out of the studio. And I was going there about 3 nights. I would work the Heart of Texas until 6 in the evening, load up in my Cutlass, haul ass to Austin, record till the wee hours of the morning, drive back, open the store, and do it again a couple of days. That's how it was a process. But I had no clue Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, I'd heard of Stevie and knew, but at that time he hadn't had his first album out.
So
somebody told me real quick. Somebody told me that he had a connection with Ray Henning Music.
Yes.
So did you ever meet Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Well, I did meet, and that's again where I met Stevie at. Even though we're in the same studios, we never crossed paths. But I was actually in Austin because they wanted me to come to Austin and let somebody off or whatever there. And so I'm in the store one day. Guys walk in. Ray goes, "Hey, Calvin, Stevie Ray, meet Stevie Ray. Hey, can you take him back and show him these amplifiers and show him how they work?" I said, "Sure." So Stevie Ray and I, we go back to the back room where the Fender amps are. We squat down side by side. I'm showing him this new Fender Twin Pro. I think it might have been a Fender Pro. It's almost the same thing. And telling him exactly what all these knobs do. This is your master volume. This is your pre-gain. And Stevie was like a little 6-year-old kid at Christmas, man. his eyes were just like, wow, that's all. He was like a kid in Candyland looking at this new amp. Super sweet, super kind-hearted, just a great guy. That was the only time I ever met Stevie, and the last time I ever talked to him.
Yeah. Well, I got to meet him, and it was nice. I got him to autograph, him and his whole band to autograph the Texas Flood album. But
Wow.
it was one of those like Sound Warehouse moments in Dallas. You know, he's gonna be there,
Now-
and I showed up, and I got there. Actually, talked to his mom, and it was right after his dad had died, and his mom was like the nicest woman in the world. But anyways, Stevie was cool. This was a few years before he died. It was around the time I think Live Alive came out.
Right. So yeah, man, I'm just proud to say that I recorded at Riverside Records, and Stevie Ray
Yeah, that's awesome.
recorded Texas Flood.
Yeah.
I had all of those years I had no clue.
Yeah.
Never even knew he stepped foot in that studio.
That's pretty cool.
I will tell you a cool thing about Stevie while we're on the subject. He was playing Waco at the Waterworks Club. He was contracted to play there for $500. And about this time is when Texas Flood thing kind of hit. He had to go over to Europe, I believe, was doing a thing with David Bowie. And in the process of, am I going to go with this David Bowie guy, or am I going to do my own thing?
Yeah,
Well,
he basically recorded the Let's Dance album with David Bowie.
That's correct.
The China Girl and
Yep.
Let's Dance, and
You can
all
hear it.
those-
I mean, you hear that, you know it's
Oh, yeah,
Stevie
you
Ray.
can't miss it.
It's just like, you know,
I
if
didn't
it's,
even know that.
But I always heard that story was that when it was coming the time to go on tour, that Bowie was going to pay him like basically union wages. And Stevie had, you know, Jackson Browne over here and all these, and John Hammond ready to record them. So he bailed, and then they got, you know, Earl Slick or somebody to come in to play on that Bowie tour.
right. There's a couple of stories on that, man. And I'm not sure which is true, to be honest.
Yeah.
But here's one thing I've heard. That Stevie, you know, he did the album, did what he did, but that wasn't really his comfort zone as far as music. And that he backed out. Now, I forget where I heard this, but we'll call it a rumor at this point.
Yeah.
The rumor is that really kind of wasn't his forte, and that music wasn't quite him, and he just decided he didn't want to do that.
And then you see Bowie in the video Let's Dance playing those leads with white silk gloves on.
Yeah.
And you go, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah. So,
But, you know, there's those stories out there, and I'm a big Stevie aficionado like you are, and you know, it all ended up being what it is, and Stevie went on to great things after that.
absolutely.
And I think the smartest thing he ever did is probably bail on Bowie
I think
at
you're
the
right,
time he
man.
did.
Well, and the other cool thing to talk about Stevie's integrity was he had this gig booked at the Waterworks for $500, and he went to do the thing with Bowie. When he came back, he honored his contract.
No kidding.
What year was that?
So he played at the
what year-
Waterworks
that-
over here off
Yes,
of
It had to be-
University Park.
it had to be 83 or 4.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That'd be a good
He
show.
came back and did. Yeah, he would join his brother at the.
They used to
Waterworks.
have awesome bands over there. I saw Bugs Henderson over
Yeah.
there. I used to see all these great bands play
Van
at the
Wilkes.
Waterworks. Yeah, and I miss that place.
Yeah, the Waterworks was cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to play there several times, actually.
Well, speaking of playing, why don't you play a song off Rock and Roll Crazy?
Well, let's see here, man. Let's
Pick
see
one.
What we got. Pick one. Well, because we kind of have a clean sound on the little amplifier over here. This tune is called Midnight Street Prowler. It's kind of a bluesy thing. So since we're talking Stevie Ray and blues, this is the only bluesy one off the album, really. So, Midnight Street Prowler. Let's see if I can remember it, man. Wait. a Saturday night. The midnight street prowler don't come out at daylight. If you don't love me, that's no worry of mine. And if you do, baby, then let's stop wasting time, because I've got my own life to live. I got my own life. Checking out the streets, oh, you know what I mean. The midnight street prowler needs a rock and roll queen. Living fast, living hard, no, I need a rest. I ain't quitting, baby, till I know I'm the best, because I've got my own life to live. I got my own life, baby. And then he goes into the lead. And speaking of, Zacek and I would do that live, and he'd do the twin to that, like I'd be doing this. And he'd be doing the twin leads, so it sounded really thick and cool, you know. But Midnight Street Prowler, that was a bluesy thing. The title track, if I can remember it, guys, Rock and Roll Crazy. This is let me see if I can pull this off. It's been a while. And of course, it was high overdrive, high energy. It wasn't this clean sound we're talking about right here. We'll do it clean, man. We'll just do it bluesy. It's Saturday night, we're coming alive. The fever's heavy 'cause we're playing tonight. We're playing for free, we'll play for the door. We're rock and roll crazy, it don't matter no more. I know that it's my life, and if you tell me it's your life, then you can come along. Drum roll. We got the feeling, the timing is right. The band is tight and the crowd's out of sight. Well, rock and roll is the life of its own. My ship is sailing, don't you wanna get on, get on? I know that it's my life, and if you tell me it's your life, then you can come along. You can come along. You can come along. Play guitar. That's it. Anyway, that's kind of how that went.
Hell yeah.
That's the title track, blues. We covered it all.
So I can tell the riffs there and the music is pretty Nugent influenced.
There's no question. Ted was a major influence on my music. A lot of it's more of a morphine, honestly. I guess if you look at it, it's like even though Ted and I became friends and have been friends a long time now, and his music's been highly influential on me, it really hasn't. It's not as Nugent oriented as you might think it would be. It's almost like more of a morphine of Ted's, no question, just because of that era and Foghat and some of the other stuff which you didn't get to hear would have been some
Thin Lizzy or
Thin
Gary
Lizzy,
Moore,
absolutely, yeah. That kind of stuff. But yeah, and all that stuff was kind of in the same vein. But I've just never been one of those guys that because I like stuff to come out of thin air more, so I've never been one to really sit and copy stuff note for note. I do appreciate guys that do that. I get that signature licks, so that the intros and the outros, but everywhere in between I just try to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So how did you become such good friends with Ted Nugent?
Well, again, back to the story of the radio station thing. Ted was playing Abilene. I remember, by the way, guys, Ted Nugent, 77. $6.50 for the concert ticket.
Yeah.
Zeppelin, 77, $6.50.
What?
Blacks.
I paid $9 for Zeppelin.
You got
ticket.
ripped off, man. You
No,
got
I'm
ripped
serious. I got
off.
the ticket.
Yeah,
It's $9.
plus. Yeah,
and
I had one with
77.
Zeppelin that was $7.50. I saw Zeppelin 3 times. I do have a Zeppelin story for you guys. Most
Well,
people don't even know this.
Do tell.
Hey, this is the place to tell
Is
it.
the place to tell it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It'll live on in infamy.
Well, honestly, I really didn't start telling the story until just a few years ago because it didn't even dawn on me to. Well, it's like you guys doing this interview. This is cool, but it kind of makes you stop and go, "Damn, they're just doing this because us
You know,
guys
I
are
was
getting
15,
older." And they're
I was 15 when I saw Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was like life changing.
no, man.
And but 77 was the Presence tour.
I saw Zeppelin in 75 and 77. I saw Zeppelin 3 times. Once in Fort Worth. I got a story about that one. I got a story about Dallas. So at this time, I'm still on my parents' dairy farms, you know, working, digging music, playing guitar,
Milking cows.
milking cows. Jimmy Page, still today, my all-time hero. He and, like I said, Ted, Billy Gibbons, Ronnie Montrose, Richie Blackmore. So anyway, it's 75 was Fort Worth. And I was up on the, what's the first level called?
The
Lower balcony, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like a horseshoe arena, and here's the stage. Zeppelin was just finishing up, coming off their last song. So I made my way to the far end, as close as I could get to the stage on the lower balcony, where there's the railing. So Page is coming off. His manager, Peter Grant, throws this red plush robe around him, is walking down the stairs, and I yell Jimmy Page to the top of my lungs, waving my hands, you know. They go in, I say, where they go into the dressing room. And then all of a sudden, a minute or two later, Robert Plant comes prancing down, kind of jogging down the steps of off the stage. And I just yelled Robert Plant as loud as I could and waving my hands. I yelled it so loud, he kind of just stopped and went like that. And I'm like, Robert Plant, Robert Plant. And lucky for me, and he had to come probably from the front door at least to the back door. And lucky for me, he jogs over to me.
50 feet.
Yeah, at least 50 feet or longer. He jogs over to me, and I'm on that lower railing. I'm on that railing at the lower level of the balcony, and lucky for me, there was an 8-foot table below me right there. He jumped up on the table and shook my hand.
Awesome.
I didn't even tell that story for
Robert's
a
a
long time.
good guy. Everything I've ever heard about
Yeah,
him.
that no question.
Yeah.
Now, that's the only time I shook his hand and told him thanks, man. And of course, it made my. Well, what can I say? If it wasn't for Zeppelin,
That was probably the
I wouldn't probably be here
Physical
talking to you
Graffiti
guys.
tour when
Huh?
I saw him on.
Physical Graffiti.
Yeah. The
Seriously,
best album. The best Zeppelin album, in my mind.
man. That was just again, and anybody can rip this title off. I've always thought it'd be a great idea to write a book called "When Music Was Magic."
Yeah.
Which would be a
Because,
great
you know,
title.
they used to crank Zeppelin for one. I mean, look at it nowadays. It's, you know, Beyonce cranks one out every 4 years. They were cranking them out every year.
Yeah, man.
Every year. I mean, the biggest drag for Zeppelin fans was the drag between Presence and In Through the Outdoor.
Mhm.
You know, it was like 3 years. And by today's standards, that ain't shit.
Mm-mm.
But of
all
course,
those bands back then, they were putting them out.
Nugent was doing it too.
Yeah. Kiss was putting out two or three a year.
And saying that this
Yeah.
was the last one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. Well, that was 75. I saw Zeppelin 3 times, and I saw them once on my birthday. But 77, they were in Dallas. They had rented Reunion Arena to rehearse for a whole week
Right.
before they did their first show, which would
They
be
love
Dallas.
Dallas. You know, when Robert Plant first decided to do his, you know, solo tour, I can't remember the album, but back in the early 80s, he went to Las Colinas.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Phil Collins, a lot of people used to
Yeah.
go there.
ZZ.
And they used to just bone up on their album for like 2 weeks and then go on tour. Dallas is a pivotal hotbed.
No question. No question, man. Well, Yeah, this was 77, I believe in September, I'm not positive. But, no, I take that back, it was March. It was March. Well, anyway, so you know where, of course, Dallas Reunion, you go to the back of it, and there's the ramps that go down into the back of the Coliseum.
Yeah, you drive a bus
You can drive a bus into there, and of course you got your security guards and their little office area sitting out front of it and all that. Well, I'm just this long-haired guy, and I'm trying like, damn it, I want to try to get backstage somehow. I want to see if I can just sneak backstage and get back with Zeppelin. That was my goal, man. So I go to the show early. I get there around noon, and just hung out. And I'm back, so I walk around to the back.
So you're there around the sound check time.
Yeah,
right.
That's and I intentionally went for that reason. So what happened is I'm up on the top by the road where cars are driving, and I see cars go down, like a couple of limos, and there's a security guard. So, and there happened to be a door into the Coliseum on a walkway off to the far right. I'm like, man, I wonder if that door would be open. So when they got busy with the security guards, it's worth a shot. And it turned out to be worth a shot. So while the security guards are checking these cars in, or limos, or whatever it was, they were, detained with that. So I just walk like I know what I'm doing down the little concrete walkway, get to the door, it opens. The door opened, and to my left was the stage, man. And as I'm there, Jimmy Page is sitting on the edge of the stage with his feet dangling off, rewinding, as if a while ago I pulled Midnight Street Powder, and if I almost had to relearn my licks, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was rewinding stuff, and he would go, like, and learn his and he was redoing some of his licks.
Yeah.
And so Plant was on stage, and John Paul Jones. John Bonham was nowhere to be found.
He was drinking.
He might have been. That's all he was. So I'm just trying to look normal, act normal, and be able to hang a few minutes without getting kicked out, which I eventually did. But I got to hang back there for a little bit, and all of a sudden this big white limo just hauls ass in, stops, out jumps John Bonham.
No kid.
Just and literally ran up to the top of the stage where his drums were and got on and started pounding the drums. And even though I love Page, he's my favorite, man. The whole Zeppelin thing and Bonham is such a huge thing,
They're the epitome of rock gods.
No question, man. It was shortly after that a guy came up to me and goes, "Now who are you with?" Blah, blah, blah.
Get the fuck out of here!
Yeah, but I was just happy. I got to spend maybe 15,
But you got to
20
still
minutes.
see the show.
I got to see the show.
So you had to go in through the front door next time.
Had to go in through the front door. Got kicked out of the back door, but I made it. So
that's awesome. I mean, that's it reminds me of that Song Remains the Same moment. You've seen the movie where those two kids are trying to get in, and the cop's standing there, and he's like, "Hey man, can we get in?" He lifts the door, and the two boys run in, and they're like, "Hell yeah, oh yeah!" And they got to get in to see the show at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
That was. If you ever watch Song Remains the Same, you'll see that moment where those two boys are just like so ecstatic that they snuck into the
Jukebox hero, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
I have a kind of a cool TED story backstage. This was Abilene, Texas again. This was 1979, maybe 80. And Ted and I had met a few times, and kind of started to develop a little bit of a friendship. But again, it doesn't matter. I knew if I could get to Ted, I could get backstage. But getting to Ted is a whole different situation. I ain't got a phone number or anything like that at this point. You
couldn't text him back then.
I couldn't text him. I couldn't even call him. I mean, I was lucky that. So anyway, I get there early, man, because I know that's the thing to do before things get crazy. And so I get there, and this is probably 3 o'clock or so. And he had a sound man named Dancer McCullough at the time. And so I walk in, and I start walking straight back, going backstage, and I hear this guy go, "Hey, hey, hey,
hey you!"
And I knew he was talking to me. Hey, you! And I knew he was talking to me, but I'm just acting like I don't even know what he's talking about. And so I keep going, man. I just keep making my beeline, just like I did going down the walkway in the back of Dallas Reunion, and keep going and not paying attention. And all of a sudden, I can hear him, his voice getting closer, and I start going a little bit, walking a little faster, and I walk right backstage, and there's Nugent, and I open the door, and as soon as I open the door, he goes, "Hey, Calvin." grab a handful of picks, man. And Dancher just kind of put the brakes on at that point.
Cool.
It's like right when he got to me, Ted.
Right before you got body slammed to the stage.
Yeah. And that's how that worked out. But anyway, yeah. So that's how I got back. Well, that was the second time with Ted, but the first time I got back by saying I was with a radio station, but I basically, we'll call it a fib, and said I was with a rock and roll station.
You were with a country station.
And I was
Press
really with a
pass
country
was
station.
in your pants, in other words, right?
So I got backstage and got a legitimate pass, and my girlfriend at the time, Ted's road manager, Philip Nicholson, came by and then just goes, "Hey man, you guys are welcome to come to the after show party."
Oh wow.
And I'm like, wow.
Well, you and Ted have been, good friends for a while. So, what do you do when you get together? Do you kill things, or you just like play
Barbecue?
guitars, or barbecue, or
Man, kind of all the above.
what do you kill?
Well,
You're a big bow hunter.
I got into bow hunting, and Ted definitely baptized me into that world. I mean, I was a hunter before with guns and stuff. I grew up on the dairy farm and, shooting with guns, but I'd never turned on to the bow. And because of Ted's influence in that area, it created my curiosity, and I traded for one at the store across the street.
Yeah, I remember your upstairs was a bunch
We
of...
turned that into a
It was a
museum.
Ted Nugent showcase
Yeah.
for all his taxidermy.
That's
stuff,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
But about 1999, before we did the showcase, I traded for this bow. Thought, man, I should try this sometime. But even being friends with Ted and even hearing all about it, it's like I didn't know anybody that did it really. And so I just, one day I just pick it up and said, I'm going to try to figure this out. And of course it was like an 80-pound bow, and it was hard to pull back. But I did in the air, and I'm like, wow, this is intense.
Kill the neighbor by accident.
That kind of stuff. So I kind of kick-started myself, and I joined a local archery club here to learn more about it. And then, of course, being with Ted, he put me light years away as far as a hunter, and helped me get well beyond what it would take to get. There's so many things you can learn just by listening and by being around it. So I got a kickstart on the bow and arrow versus guitar.
Well, Ted is definitely a purist when it comes to bow hunting.
Absolutely.
So when did your relationship with Ted, become more than just seeing him backstage? When he moved to Waco, or how did that happen?
Before that, well, actually that happened because at the time, this would have been roughly 2000, I guess, 2001 maybe.
I always heard that he had like a black mold problem at his place in Michigan.
That is correct.
But he always loved hunting down here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that became insurmountable, he just decided to pull up stakes and move to McLennan County.
That's basically true. And how that all happened was I was becoming more involved with the hunting. I was getting connections here in Central Texas and turning Ted on to the Central Texas connections that I had. So Ted would come in, and this started probably about 99, 2000, in that area, 2001, and roughly spend about a month of hunting season with me and my family. And when all the black mold issue happened in Michigan, well, they came down, he and Shemaine, and it's like, dude, you should think about Texas maybe, because you love Texas. You hang out here half the time anyway.
Exactly.
The good schools. He didn't like the Michigan schools, and it was just a mess with the whole mold issue. And they both, especially Shemaine, they were both highly subject to it. But she got it worse even. But
so they got sick from the
they got
black
sick.
mold.
Eventually, they had to bulldoze their house completely down.
Yeah.
So bottom line
And I'm
is,
sure it was just a badass house.
It was a very nice house, man. And the guy that did the builder, there was a leak that developed literally right by their bed, so they were breathing it every night.
Oh, man.
This mold was right there.
So he did the best thing he could do for his son and Shemaine.
Yes.
And relocated.
And honestly, of course, Michigan's a great, awesome place, just beautiful. And Ted loves Michigan, and Shemaine, but she liked Florida a lot. Ted liked Michigan a lot. Texas is kind of the half and half thing,
Kind of a happy medium.
Yeah, I
Yes,
don't know
kind of
about
a happy
that.
I'm more like
it's
Ted.
like Florida, except without the humidity.
Well, yeah, and the humidity drives me bananas, but which is why I could never live in Florida. But anyway, so they ended up coming down and basically, long story short, ended up doing some legwork and bird dogging for them and found them this place, a couple of places here. And the one place we found was the place that they now reside.
In Crawford.
In China Spring, actually.
China Spring, actually,
So that's how Ted ended up. He was on tour, actually, at the time. He stopped in and spent a few days. He went back on tour, and then we went out and started looking for places and found the magical place that he lives on now, which is called Spirit Wild.
It was
Yeah,
right.
I've seen
It was
this.
right past where I used to live in China Spring, and I remember driving out that way, and
Yep.
I think he had a security guard at one point because we drove by and
Probably only
it was like a security guard. Like, oh, that must be Ted's
looks like
place.
a great place because I saw the Anthony Bourdain episode, and you know where they're just rattling off automatic firearms, and,
Right.
and Bourdain's having the time of his life, just unleashing these fully auto rounds, and it's great for Ted. I'm glad he's home here now, and he's got a place that
It was really cool
appreciates
at the Groovy Awards, which we missed it because I was running late. Dave got
Actually,
there a
I
little
was
bit late.
there.
He
I
was there, but he missed it.
But I'm waiting for Troy outside, and then
Wow.
And Ted was there, and
Yeah.
I think he played the national anthem, and
Yes.
maybe played us. Were you there?
Yeah.
We saw you later that night.
Yeah. I actually set Ted up with the guitar.
Well, goddamn, you should have told
Goddamn.
us, man.
And
Troy,
honestly, I had
Fucking
get your fucking
I had-
life in order. So
I
I'm not
had
the
a big
late
surprise
guy.
that night that I was unaware of, and Ted was unaware of, and he just found out about it and said, "Hey, man, I'd like to do this." And I got this little plaque up there, which is, I'm not a big trophy guy, but it was kind of cool to have that happen, and just the fact that I supported all this for years and years, but I'd never really attended a bunch of events. I just supported it with advertising and supported for the community.
Don't you give a guitar every year for?
I give a guitar,
what do you call it? You raffle off a guitar. or
Groovy
something?
Awards for the
Every year he gives an acoustic guitar. So
That's nice.
And so, as it turned out, Brad Vaughn, who's the president of the Musicians Association, had come up with this little award, I think, second year in a row, called the President's Award. Of course, Ted was having fun with that, like, President's Award, this should be the Mojo Assassin Award, that kind of thing, because they gave Mojos an award.
yeah.
But anyway, so little did I know that the one time that I actually went to the awards officially, it happened to be the time Ted was doing the Star Spangled Banner, and it happened to be the time that I got the award.
Man, that's newsworthy. I don't know if any news stations were there, but that's pretty cool.
It was a shock for people to see. All of a sudden, they go, "Please rise for the national anthem," and Ted walked out. Boom.
Yeah, that's pretty damn cool.
I wish I'd been inside. I was outside. at
Waiting
the
for
point.
me.
I was waiting on Troy's ass to show up. But anyways,
But yeah,
we'll catch him next year.
yep.
Exactly. Well, we'll be there. And I got another music video, to submit for next year's. I won the first music video. The first time they had the music video of the year award, I won that music video.
Cool.
Didn't win the last 2
And
years.
he's been slighted ever since.
I've been slacking. I've been slacking.
Including the Zychek Mojo's Award, which
Yeah.
should have got that.
I think so.
But anyways,
Anyway, so but you're always working on projects and writing songs and
Yeah.
recording songs. And do you have anything new you want to maybe share with their audience?
Man, I have one that I'm actually working with Zychek on right now that I wrote just a few months ago, maybe 4 months ago now. Strangely enough, it's kind of timely right now. We're going to be probably even get with you, Troy, to talk video on this. Because this song could go, if you want to make it country, it could go country. If you want to make it go southern country rock, it could do that. If you want to make it go heavy, five-finger death punch, it could go that way. It's like wherever you want to put it, it's got the capability. It could be just, the way I did it is maybe more just me, which is more southern rock and roll, Leonard Skinner-ish, I suppose you might say. But it's the latest one on the burners, if you guys want to hear it. I'm going to grab an acoustic on this one.
Okay.
Which, we'll see if this will work. It really starts with an electric guitar. and I probably can't play it as good on the acoustic, but just so you know. So yeah, it's one of those. It's called Forever Rebel, Rebels Forever.
Which you wrote before all of this.
Yes,
Rebel
before
flag,
all this Rebel flag stuff. So yeah, this is called Forever Rebel, Rebels Forever. And it's just one of those that in 3 o'clock in the morning, literally 3:15 or whatever, that phrase is pounding my head, and I'm trying to remember it, but I know better than to try to do that, so I just put it down on my phone, made a note. A few little lyrical ideas came to me melody-wise, and then a few days later, I closed the store, I'm jamming on my electric, just rocking, and this groove, this riff happened, and as soon as I heard this riff, which I'll try to pull off on acoustic, but I knew that the riff was the signature for the song. It was like plain as day, this is going to be Forever Rebel. And I'm going to do the best I can on this acoustic.
Okay.
Land, back when a man used to be a man, and things ain't quite the same today. What the hell happened to the USA? Yeah. Trespass against my brother, you trespass against me too. Bring harm to my sisters, there's probably no hope for you, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Forever rebel, rebel forever. Forever rebel, forever I'll stay. Forever rebel, I'll stay. Johnny Reb, still my hero today. Just like Jesus, he ain't going away. Rebel flags fly high in the sky. Liberty or death, do or die, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Forever rebel, a rebel forever. Forever rebel, forever I'll stay. Forever rebel, I'll stay. Please. Hit that cold chord now. Still lead guitar. And then a lot. Hang on a second, guys. Here we go. Tired of the man, tired of the clans, black, white, or brown, don't make a damn. 13 stars, look up to the sky. Johnny fell to his knees, and we all know why. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah.
good, Calvin.
Thank you, thank
All
you,
right.
thank you, man.
Well, Calvin, hey, we really appreciate you being in the shed. We're at Lone Star Music on
Lake Care.
Yeah, man.
some great stories, man. Hey,
Thanks, man.
really
Thank you guys.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Stories.
We'll see you next time on In the Shed.
You got it.